Frank Lupo was a writer that was under contract to my studio, and I went over to NBC to do a show for NBC. It was going to be our first show. And I had an idea for a show called Stingray, which is about a guy and a stingray, you know, and I ended up doing the show for NBC later on. But I go in and I start to pitch this to Brandon Tartikoff, who I didn't know very well at the time. He was one of the most incredible executives ever. And I start pitching this thing, and he stops me. And Frank and I were going to write Stingray together. And he stops me, and he goes, "I have an idea for you." I went.
There was a rumor that they broke some senator's kid out of a Turkish prison. Soldiers of fortune, outriders who would do anything, anywhere.
And he goes, "It's called the A-Team." And I thought, my initial instinct was, I hate that. But I didn't say that, you know. It's like, that is so on the nose. I mean, it's like A-Team. It sounded like it. Okay, the A-Team. I said, okay, fine. So he said, okay, he says, now, do you remember Mad Max? You remember Road Warrior and Mad Max and the Mel Gibson movie? I go, yeah. He goes, okay, well, it's not Mad Max, but there's elements of Mad Max in it.
I'm going to show these guys what a weekend in the country is really like.
He says, you remember the Dirty Dozen? I go, yeah, of course. He goes, well, it's not a military show like the Dirty Dozen, but those guys, those scummy guys that he gets out of the jail, you know, to go do them, but it's not about the military, you know, but there's something about it that's like that.
Up here, fatso!
Give this gonzo a haircut.
And he says, you know that guy, Mr. T, in the new Rocky movie that's out? I go, yeah, and he goes, well, he drives the car.
You want tough? You got tough. V.A.!
Frank and I leave, and we go down to the commissary at NBC. Frank's looking at me and goes, what the hell was that? And I go, well, I think he's telling us to break all the rules we know about a conventional dramatic television series. And that this show should have its hand on its hip. It should not resemble anything.
Oh, Hannibal, you love the jazz, man. You love the jazz.
Oh, lighten up, fellas. You got to do these things with style.
And so Frank and I start to put it together. And we're going, okay, so who are these guys? You know, well, how about a pilot who's insane? This guy Howling Mad Murdoch, and you know, he's got an invisible dog named Billy.
Where's my dog, Billy? You see my dog down there? Hey, what you doing, man? Step off, step off. Did you bring any candy?
And Hannibal Smith, this guy that always has this like crazy way of trying to deliver the mission.
Is this a part of the plan?
No.
The face man, you know, Templeton Peck, the face man, who's just their scrounger. He's, you know, you need a Gulfstream jet, he'll get it for you. And I don't care how, he's gonna, all BS, you know.
The guy in the dark suit's wearing a 357 Magnum.
How do you know it's a 357?
Because I seen you with a 357.
And then their muscle is B.A. Baracus, who hates everybody in the unit, you know. He just has a bad attitude, you know. He just can't get along with people.
This road leads directly to the airport, Hannibal.
This road is nowhere near the airport.
We came up with the backstory of that they were sent on a mission to knock over the Bank of Hanoi, and the war ended while they were still behind the lines. They went ahead and knocked over the bank, and it became an international incident. So now they're tried for robbing the Bank of Hanoi, and they escaped from the military prison, and they're on the run from a bunch of bad guys like Colonel Lard and Colonel Lynch and all these guys that I named, that kind of, you know, allegorical names.
I want these men cuffed and fettered, and I mean this.
Now, if you'd been that way last year, you'd gotten a lot further, a lot quicker.
I made an appointment with Brandon. I go back about 3 days later, 4 days after the initial meeting with him, and I said, okay, here's what we've come up with. And Frank and I pitched him this idea. And he looks at me and he goes, that's the show, like that. And what he did was so smart, because he didn't pitch me, you know, an idea. He didn't tell me how to do it. He pitched me an attitude. He pitched the attitude of the series to me. And Frank and I managed to figure it out.
I'm not sure you are exactly what I bargained for.
Let's get something straight right now. You want your friend back. So you went out and hired a bunch of gunfighters. Now, if you wanted somebody with good manners, you should have hired an English butler.
Of course, the critics just hated it because it was not sophisticated. And they called it violent. And of course, it wasn't violent. I mean, it was stupid. We must have blown off 8,000 rounds on some episodes, you know, and nobody ever got hit. And I'm reading reviews saying that I sold out for money because this was my first big hit for my studio. And I actually thought critics would love it because it was so fresh, but that audiences wouldn't get it because these characters were so broken. Now, the audience loved it.
You got any fingernail glue?
Yeah.
Coming out the closet, Hannibal?
Funny.
I mean, I can't tell you what that's like, you know. I mean, you just realize that you've just got a monster hit on your hands and that everybody is underneath it. Everybody's carrying it.
They are the A-team. They're federal criminals. They're trained in combat.
Oh, come on, Dad. They're just a bunch of guys. They hardly look dangerous, except that guy B.A.
A lot of writing a series is kind of knowing who you have and knowing what their skills are, what their skill sets are as actors. And Dwight, who was Broadway trained and had a very soft ear and could do impersonations and imitations, so he could really go any direction that you wanted him to go. If you could come up with something and give him enough time to work on it, he'd have it for you.
Even if this plan works, I don't want to go.
You know what you do? You butter my biscuits.
I'm not going on no chopper, and that's final.
The show tended to focus comedically on B.A. and Murdoch. They had good chemistry between the two of them. They were funny together, and they knew how to play off of each other pretty well. And George could play with everybody.
Oh, Hannibal, what are you... You know, you gotta stop moonlighting like this. You're carrying one job too many.
You know, George was a stage-trained actor as well. And he understood that the way you did a disguise was that you had to change your body proportions.
Lotte, no park here!
Please don't yell at people.
Yellow people! You don't like yellow people?
No, not yellow people. Yell at people.
If he was going to play the Chinaman at the laundry, you know, he would change his neck proportion, his shoulders, the length of his arms, so that he would try and hide inside of the disguise.
You get money. Bring a massive picture. You know, hear from me in 2 days. It's no deal.
Mr. Lee.
Goodbye.
I liked the Amy Allen character because I felt that it was good for them to have access to a newspaper, to the research, that they could go to her and she could contribute things that they needed.
Come on, you guys. I can help you with lots of stuff. I have the paper. I have the computer at the paper for research stuff. And I have the First Amendment to hide behind.
We'll talk about it on the airplane.
I ain't going on no airplane.
Come on, B.A., be a sport.
Got you.
And I also thought that it's always a good idea if you can include a woman to give little girls, especially on an 8 o'clock show, a place to stand in the series, you know, somebody that, you know, feel that they're part of. You know, I think that that is an area where George sort of felt we didn't need a woman, you know, and he did over the years kind of make his case. I'm not sure I agreed with him, you know, but we were a big hit. But I would have continued to have a woman involved.
These guys knocked over the Bank of Hanoi 4 days after the Vietnam War ended. Nobody knew anything about the mission.
I really think Don Belisario with Magnum was more, I think, responsible for trying to like show a Vietnam vet in a positive light for the right reasons. I was just trying to solve a story problem, trying to get where I was trying to go, you know?
No extra ammo?
No.
Oh, wonderful. We got the whole gorilla band chomping on our tails.
I was trying to figure out how to give Brandon what he wanted and do something that I thought would be fun to do. If I were to tell you that I was sitting there going, let's do something for the Vietnam vet, I mean, I really was. I really wasn't. If anything, I was probably thinking, I wonder if this is going to hurt us.
Come out and see what kind of surprise I have for you.
Wonderful sense of humor, huh?
One of the things about a high-concept show like that is when you have a high-concept show, they take off and they explode immediately. I mean, the A-Team was a #1 show in 3 weeks, but they die just as quick. I mean, when the flame goes out, man, it's like, bye. The people just walk away, you know?
Empress 6 to Empress 1.
Emperor 6, go ahead, please.
General, we've got a hostage situation here in a restaurant on 10th Street.
I can have a SWAT team there within 3 minutes.
Negative, General. If these guys see any cops, they could kill everybody in the place.
I wasn't nuts about it after they sort of started working for the government. We were trying to find a way to keep it on another year, and if there was a change, I basically say I'm responsible for it, for not having, you know, put myself where I should have been maybe. But, you know, it's like, it was a private studio. I was carrying all my own deficit. You know, my writing staff consisted of an executive producer, writer, a story editor, and maybe one staff writer, and that was it. And I was always one of the writers. As the president of the studio and the owner of the studio, I was one of the writers. So, you know, I mean, I would write Wise Guy, and then I'd write an A-Team, and then I'd write a Commish, and then I'd write a Hunter, and then, you know, I mean, so, you know, it was like a very interesting time in my life. You know, it was a weird series. It was fun.